Hello, everyone. This is Raise Your Voice as part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Brett Rutherford, joined as always by my good friend and co-host, Darby Robinson. We are live on youtube.com/@raiseyourvoice and available wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on those notifications so you can join us whenever we go live. If you love what we do here at Raise Your Voice and really want to say thank you, head on over to patreon.com/raiseyourvoice, where if you become a paid member, which is as little as $1 a month, we have our first perk available to our Patreon members. I sent out the invite this past weekend to those of you that are already Patreon members, but also for any new Patreon members, you can be a part of our official Raise Your Voice Slack channel. We will be discussing Rays baseball. You can kind of hear my thoughts and Darby's thoughts, which I know aren't worth much, but $1 a month. And then you get in there and we can chat. We can chat during the games, and we'll start maybe dropping some exclusive content for our Patreon members as well. But that's patreon.com/raiseyourvoice. Darby, 3 games in the books. At the time we were recording, the series against Pittsburgh is getting ready to get started, but man, it was really fun to have Rays baseball back. And I think one of the first takes that I saw being fired off on the internet, we heard Stuart Sternberg talk about it when he was in the broadcast booth over the weekend, was how kind of shocking or striking it was to see the home whites being played outside in a day game, getting all that natural Florida sunlight. And, these are uniforms that I think since 2008, and besides All-Star games, we've only seen under the dome. And I guess we've seen them in the postseason as well in 2020. But to see them in a day game, a home game, that was pretty intense.
Well, you mentioned the 2020. That was when we kind of saw that and we're like, ooh, that actually looks really good in natural light in the sunny San Diego kind of golden hour. Yeah, it was great to see him. It was great to see him live. The throwback Devil Rays, also crisp, very crispy, beautiful. Yeah. Absolutely love it. Yeah, they look good on the field. Like the actual visual of it. Listen, we know that domes are kind of essential in Florida. Right now, the weather's pretty great. It's going to get a lot worse as the season goes on. But I will say it is fantastic to see natural light on these jerseys. They do look really good.
There were lots of takes, and of course, it's a unique season where you've got 2 teams that were dealing with major stadium issues before this year, playing in minor league ballparks. So you've got the A's, obviously, who are playing in Sacramento, and then the Rays, who even with their own stadium issues, probably with the hurricane, probably would have been playing here at Steinbrenner Field, no matter, unless there had already been a new stadium built by this point. But anyways, story for a different podcast. But the fact that I saw a lot of takes flying on Twitter, a few jokes about it's just so fitting that the Rays are playing in a minor league ballpark. And, obviously you get the attendance jokes. And for me, I know people in businesses that were displaced from Hurricane Milton. And so those jokes, they don't really land with me as much. And for me, the Rays are just another one of those groups that have been displaced by the damage from Hurricane Milton. And so I do think it's nice that, they were able to play home games. All 3 games were sellouts, and it was a good opportunity for the Rays fan base. It's been through a lot recently to get together and cheer on the team. There were your sell the team chants were there. And you know what? I'm fine with fans voicing their opinions. And I think that's a good platform to do it at, is do it at the games where you've spent your money to go in and watch the team. And I think you have every right to voice your opinion in whatever way you see fit. On the flip side of that, there were a lot of people, like you said, the takes were flying that, man, it was beautiful weather for baseball. And it's we know that Florida in March is beautiful. It's why it's the spring break capital of the world. It's why you play spring training. Florida, outside baseball in Florida in March has always worked. It's when we get into July and August where it's either 100 degrees or it's pouring rain or both, right? That's when the Rays will play a lot less at home during those times, but that's when it's going to get nastier. I do think, though, we're going to see the home whites a lot because they're going to be playing under the sun a lot more. This is something we see the Bucks do. The Bucks,
Yep.
like they're I think their official home uniforms are the red jerseys with the pewter pants, but for most of the season they will wear the white at home because it's a lot less difficult to it doesn't absorb as much sunlight and as much heat. So I think we're going to see those a lot more, and probably the navy blues a lot less at home this season.
Yeah, I think so, and I think well, it's a good look. So I'm glad to see that because I think it's a good look. And yeah, you're right. The science part of it is, white is a very good reflective color. When I was growing up, my dad would always buy used white cars. I was like, I'd love to have a color in any of our cars, but no, white was it because, if you grow up in Florida, you drive around, any little bit counts. Any little bit counts. You're right. Leather seats, not exactly a fun time getting into a car after.
You've been burned by the seatbelt in Florida. Like you go to get the metal part of the seatbelt and it gets you.
Absolute scalding hot. Yeah. We all have the scars from just, we just ran out to the Publix and now I have a 2nd-degree burn on my hand from the metal of the seat. Overall, I also thought the stadium, it looked really good. You said it, there's some takes about it's weird, weird to see cars in the distance as if Chavez Ravine doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Classic, one of the most iconic
I think of Fenway Park too. They just built a really big ass wall so you can't see the cars.
Yeah, they blocked it. Wrigley also right in the middle of a neighborhood. It's in the middle of a absolute suburb. But no, the thing is, overall, there's nothing I can say about the stadium in terms of that kind of looks gross. Without just thinking I'm just so thankful to have a place to play that is nice and new, right? I think the thing is,
and in the area,
it's in the area, right? This is not in. We've seen this happen with the sports teams having to move to another place. New Orleans moving to Oklahoma. After Katrina, that was a thing that happened in basketball, which eventually led to the Seahawks
the Toronto Raptors had to play a whole season in Tampa because of during COVID with travel restrictions to and from Canada. And it was really hard on those players.
Jays as well, spending half the year in Dunedin and then half the year in Buffalo.
It's hard for a lot of players when you're doing that to you'll talk to Raptors players and they'll say how much they hate Tampa because their only experience in Tampa is living out of a hotel and going to play in an arena where there's no fans that you're used to. There's just people that want to go see an NBA game. And so I don't think I think some Rays fans are taking for granted how lucky the team is to get to play in this ballpark for this season.
Staying local is great. The facilities, on the website, Lizzie had a fantastic article, was able to go do a walkthrough. I mean, let's be honest, this is a fairly brand new renovated place. Only about less than 10 years since the last major renovations, and they've put a lot of money. The Yankees put a lot of money into that. There's state-of-the-art facilities and clubhouse, and the Rays the transformation was really fantastic. They were able to put up, people were kind of ragging on some of the stuff, but they are completely transforming a Yankee Stadium into a place that feels like the Rays home ballpark. And
in less than a week.
Because the Yankees were using it. I think they did a fantastic job. They did a fantastic job transforming that. And I think this is one of those things that in a week, right, we're not going to be thinking of it as a Yankee Stadium because nobody thinks about any minor league stadium really besides Durham. That's the only minor league stadium that anybody has ever thought about ever, really.
And they don't even play in the original Durham Athletic Park anymore.
Exactly. So the only this is going to be a place that by week 2, week 3, it will be synonymous with the Rays. And already it looked. I was expecting, I think, to make it to feel a lot weirder and different. but looking at the way it played, it played bigger than it seemed. The
Yeah.
stands were packed. It didn't seem like a weird, abnormal. It felt better than like the Dunedin with the Blue Jays or
Right.
Buffalo, honestly, with the Blue Jays. Like those felt a little weirder. I'm curious to see with Sacramento tonight against the Cubs to see how that looks. If that's different or better, worse, whatever. But this stadium, formerly Legends Field, now George M. Steinbrenner Stadium, will have plenty of time to come up with nicknames as the season goes on. But it felt like real baseball, right? I think a lot of people were like, this could be a place that hosts playoff games. And that will be weird for sure, but it doesn't immediately, when I'm watching this, doesn't scream like, oh, we're still in spring training.
No, that was my biggest worry as well, that it was going to feel like a spring training park. But the fact that you've got, not spring training lineups, not spring training uniforms, although we could talk about Sunday's Rays lineup that felt like a late spring training lineup in some ways. But you've got your broadcasters. You like it. That's what like it didn't feel like a spring training game because it wasn't a spring training game. And we've seen teams play in other places. And so I think credit to the Rays, credit to the team that went in and did all of that. And that is what we heard from Matt Silverman and Stu Sternberg throughout the weekend. They always go on and do these, beginning of the season interviews or opening day interviews. They go up in the booth, and with all the other crap that's been going on and some of the other crap that we've heard from those two individuals, I think the Raysification of the ballpark was like a great thing to give them something to talk about other than everything else that's going on. So maybe it bailed them out a little bit, although it's not like Dwayne Statz and Brian Anderson are going to grill their bosses on what's been going on with the rest of the stadium news. Let's dig in a little more to the baseball. The Rays rolled out the three pitchers from this past weekend: Ryan Pepio, Zach Littell, and Taj Bradley. And man, I mean, I want to talk about Zach Littell a little bit first, because he was someone who, through a good chunk of the offseason and most of spring training, we talked about as the odd man out. We talked about as a guy who could be traded. And, we were like really glad that the Rays didn't trade him, because obviously Shane McClanahan goes down for a little bit and you need Zach Littell to step up in the rotation. And if this is your guy that was going to be your sixth starter, potentially a swing man out of the bullpen to start the season, and we don't know what the Rays' plans are. They might have tried some sort of backdoor six-man rotation. But the fact that he was probably sixth choice really speaks to this team's depth. And hey, not every lineup that he'll face is going to be the Colorado Rockies away from Coors. But man, he looked sharp, and he looked just like the Zach Littell, who was statistically your best starting pitcher a year ago.
Littell was amazing. I mean, all three starters were simply incredible. But I mean, Littell, like you said, he had the most question marks coming in. But yeah, 6 innings, felt in command the entire way. No walks, 7 strikeouts, no home runs, which was my big concern coming into Steinbrenner Field was, how will that play outside of the Trop with somebody like Littell, who could have some long ball problems? No home runs for any of our starting pitchers this series, and just 4 hits. He was spectacular. Again, it is the Rockies, but like they have some pretty good hitters on that team. Like there are some guys there. They have some real players. They're building something there. Well, I don't know if they'll continue building it. They might mess it up like they do usually, but they have some really good pieces. So if they can kind of keep building that way, they could be a little scary. This is not a lineup to like kind of overlook. But Littell just absolutely carved through him the entire time. This was probably the best. Like, I don't know if I've seen a series dominated so well by starting pitchers for the Rays like in years. I mean, this was 3 starts in a row, all of them going 6 innings, 6 full innings.
Yeah.
1 walk between the 3 of them. 7 strikeouts each, 8 for Pepio, and just a couple of hits, very few runs. I think it was just 4 total earned runs, I believe. extreme, and there was some defensive, not errors, but like plays that could have been made. That for Taj, he had a couple of those thanks to Jose Caballero, who we'll talk about. But this is exactly what you want to see from the Rays starting pitching. This is a team built around that rotation and the rotation looked spectacular. And Rasmussen goes tonight. This is the type of pitching staff that you're just excited to see the next week, the next start. You want to see like that. I mean, Taj Bradley already after the first weekend of games has the number one stuff plus of any starter after that first weekend of games. Like this is each of those guys answered the questions. There were different questions for each. They each answered it perfectly after one game.
Yeah, I want to go back to Pepiot for a second. The changeup, using the changeup to attack right-handed hitters was something. Last season, he only threw the changeup versus righties 15% of the time. And after just one start, so this could change. It could have been the type of hitter. It could have been the changeup was just on for him on Friday, but 28% changeups against righties. And so it was on. It was moving like a reverse slider, basically. It was finishing like below the knees, getting a lot of swing and miss or soft contact. And if those three pitches, the fastball, slider, changeup, are all on for Pepiot, and he can command them as well as he did on Friday, he's got ace upside. And he's not the only guy in this rotation with ace upside. I think with Bradley, it's there, and that was evident in his start on Sunday. Rasmussen has ace stuff. I don't know much about, if the volume is going to be there for Rasmussen, and I don't think the Rays are going to push it when you've got all of these other great pitchers. And then, Shane Baz is a guy who came up with ace upside. He's got a lot of things I think he needs to work through this year, but the fact that he's going fifth in the rotation, and again, like I think Shane McClanahan was coming into the year as the true ace, and then take the rest of these guys. They could all be the number 2. They could all be the number 5. You can shuffle them up really however you'd like. And so I feel really just really good about how the Rays starting pitchers were able to attack. And we saw almost everyone in the bullpen this weekend as well. The only guy who didn't throw was Mason Englert. I imagine he'll throw one of these next 2 days, might be able to provide, a couple innings of work for the Rays out of the bullpen. But we saw Pete Fairbanks twice. There were some command issues, but ultimately, like I think we saw the stuff there, and that's what you want out of your closer. If he walks 2 guys, but they can strike out the next 3, you're okay with that as long as he doesn't give up the big hit, doesn't spiral out of control. And so it was nice to see Pete Fairbanks struggle. I think it's going to sound weird. It was nice to see him struggle and be able to work out of it. And I think that is what you need to see out of him early in the season. Because, you've got other guys like Edwin Uceta who looked really sharp on Sunday in his first outing of the season that can step in and get save opportunities. Tonight, Pete Fairbanks has thrown 2 out of the last 3 days. This might be a down day for Pete Fairbanks where they won't go to him at all. And you might need to go back to a Uceta or a Mason Montgomery. Can we talk about Mason Montgomery?
Oh, please.
Like I came into this season, it's like my one of my big takes was that Pete Fairbanks is not the best reliever in this bullpen. And I don't think that was like a crazy hot take or anything. I knew he would be the closer, but watching Mason Montgomery pitch this weekend kind of solidifies like what I've already believed, and that Mason Montgomery is the best pitcher in this bullpen. How they use him I think is going to change throughout the year, but Mason Montgomery can do things with the baseball that no one else in this bullpen can. And just like sitting at 100 easy from the left side, man, that was exciting.
I said it before the season. I don't give a lot of fantasy advice, but this is the guy that you want to pick up because he could be the next elite closer. I mean, this could be the next Josh Hader. The level of stuff is through the roof in relief for him. The velocity, his stuff plus numbers are like kind of comically big. They were last year coming into this year. You just got to watch him and be like, oh yeah, no, that stuff is sensational. So his role will evolve like that. His role will absolutely evolve and get bigger and better. And yeah, this bullpen is this bullpen is starting exactly where I wanted last year's bullpen to start, with a lot of good arms, but then a lot of guys that you can like kind of rotate through. There's options now. There's nobody that I'm looking at, like even Englert, I'm not like looking at as like, I don't get it. I'm like, I get his role. He has options. There's a purpose there, but we saw Kevin Kelly, shine through. Hunter Biggie looked good. Like this bullpen top to bottom. It's got a lot of dogs in it. Like this is a good bullpen.
Yeah, and Kevin Cash, I don't know when he said this, but he said this is like the best bullpen he's ever been around. And you think about the Rays, like this is the best bullpen the Rays have had since 2020. I think that's fair to say, since they were the staple. And I know it's early.
I agree.
We got a lot to see, but just based on the potential and the stuff coming out of this bullpen from the right and left side.
And the looks, that's the thing. The looks that you can give, right? You have righties, you have lefties, but you have different arm angles. Like Uceta does something that's very different than what Pete does. They both are extremely effective relievers, but Uceta has a different role, a different arm slot, a different, setup of what he's looking to do. And so that is very different. And then Manny Rodriguez has a different look to say a Hunter Biggie, who's just velo. And I just looking at it, this is an exciting pen. It's one of those pens where you anybody that they're calling up, like you mentioned, Fairbanks probably unavailable today, or at least you really want to avoid having to use him. This is a pen where I don't have any problem with anybody being unavailable, right? If like you can't have Pete go, that's fine. You say they can go for a second. You could have Mason Montgomery, who's fresh, take the last inning. You could have Biggie take the last inning, right? He was the last guy into the pen. Hey, he can be the closer for a night. Why not? It's an exciting pen. Last year at this time, I feel like very early on, it was praying for just Pete and Adam, right? It was just Jason Adam or Pete Fairbanks. And after that, you were like, oh God, Colin Poche, please have a night, at least 92. Like if I'm seeing 91 on the radar gun, I'm terrified. Uceta wasn't there yet. Rodriguez wasn't there yet. Biggie wasn't there yet. Montgomery was still trying to start. Like that pen, it was a rough time for a good portion of the season.
Right. We're in a better place now. Okay. Biggest moment of the weekend was the Cameron Meisner walk-off home run. It was his first at bat after coming in as a defensive replacement, first pitch swinging, first career home run, and first home run of the season for the Rays to cap off a 3-2 win in walk-off fashion. First off, just like what a fun guy to root for. What an easy guy to root for. I got to see him all year last year in Durham, him and Jake Mangum, who we're going to talk about shortly. And we saw Meisner come in after Josh Lowe got hurt. And so to see him kind of get that walk-off moment for his first career home run with family in attendance, a guy that was only on the roster because Richie Palacios is also not ready for opening day. He had a finger fracture, if I am correct there. So a guy that was not like on the top of the list to be in a big moment on opening day, to have that moment, I think is just a lot of fun. The bad news is Josh Lowe is out with an oblique strain, very similar injury as we saw him.
Grade 2, which is worse than the one he had last year.
And it sounds like last year they maybe rushed him back a little bit. So he might, even though it's a worse injury, he might miss similar, if not less time than he did a year ago. But it is bad for Josh Lowe, a guy who you and I talked about a lot on our last episode as it being a make or break year for this guy, and him being one of the essential pieces of this Rays team, a guy that had a down year in 2024 after a really great year in 2023, a potential 4-win player in right field for you, a guy that could hit 25 home runs and steal 25, 30 bases. And
he's your guy that you're also going to be your backup center fielder with Palacios injured. He's one of your key lefty bats. He's your second best lefty bat. Although we will have to talk about Aranda, that may not have been the case even coming into the season. But this is a bummer. It's a bummer for the team. Obviously, outfield we talked about being like one of the more lower depth positions for the Rays. It's just also just a bummer for Lowe, who just seems like he has not had he has had some really bad luck when it comes to timing of injuries and when it's come to when he's on the field. He last year he was basically just battling injuries the whole year, which led to the down year. Like he really needed this season, this thing, and so I'm really hopeful. He seems like he has a good head on his shoulders when it comes to this. He was talking about the injury, talking about how going through this basically same thing last year, he knows what to expect, and that, you know, might be better for him because he knows what it feels like. He knows the recovery. He knows the steps that he needs to do to get back onto the field. But you feel bad for the guy because he's been through a lot on and off the field lately, and you just hope that he can come back strong in the second half of the season and really put together. I mean, I think we were both really high on him for good reasons, right? There's a lot to like with Josh Lowe, and this is just a really annoying time to have an injury like this. That's going to be something that can linger like most of the season.
I think where I'm at, and it is unfortunate for Josh Lowe, and it's going to hurt this team. And I think they have ways to mitigate what they're losing. But I'm worried that this is just what we're going to get with Josh Lowe, that there's always going to be something wrong. You know, he's 27, so he's not getting any younger. You know, once he gets to his 30s, you know, it's hard to stay healthy. And to see it happen in the first game, and I know injuries, like, they're hard to predict, but to see an oblique strain, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's something that could have been prevented or not, but I just have a bad feeling about the long-term outlook for Josh Lowe. And with this being such a big season for him, you know, to miss potentially significant time, it's just not good timing. So with that roster move, with him going on the IL, the Rays called up Jake Mangum to make his major league debut. He was in the lineup hitting second on Sunday. We can talk a little bit later about Sunday's lineup choices. I think they're a little bit worrying when I first saw it, but when I kind of worked through it, it made a little more sense. But Jake Mangum's going to get, you know, he's going to get a lot of time. He is in the lineup again for Monday night's game. He's playing right field. Meisner getting center field for DeLuca's first day off. But I think the plan to make up for Josh Lowe's production is you've got Cameron Meisner, you've got Jake Mangum, and you've got Jose Caballero. And these are three guys that are going to rotate through your outfield spots, you know, playing right field. I think you'll see Caballero out there against lefties sometimes. And he was electric on Sunday. I really need to see him. He's at shortstop today. I really want to see him in the lineup more and not at third base, giving Judy Caminero more days off. I want to see him rotate around in other spots. But I feel like you are going to take a big offensive hit. But there's a chance that in the month and a half, 2 months that Josh Lowe is hot, that, like, okay, maybe right now it's Cameron Meisner's turn to get hot. And then for 2 weeks, Jake Mangum's going to get hot. And then Jose Caballero is going to get hot, and you can't keep him out of right field. Like, I think that's what your hope is right now. They might all go cold, or they might all just not be very good hitting. And so you're going to struggle there in that spot on the field. But can it also get to the point, I'm going to ask you this, can it get to the point where this triggers an earlier than expected Chandler Simpson call up?
I think you might get an Eloy call up first, because that's the other guy waiting in the wings too. Like, you get a week of Misner kind of like getting hot, and you ride that, and then Eloy for the week before his entire bones turn to dust, and then yeah, then it's Chandler for the rest. No, we talked about this with Simpson as a guy that I think a lot of people want to see up, you know, right away, and I think there is a lot of really good reasons to keep him in Durham right now to learn center field, because he is new to that. Like, that is brand new. He's brand new to that level as well. But I did say that I thought Simpson was somebody that could come up a lot earlier than we think, and an injury would definitely kind of cause that. I think right now, when you have, I think what you mentioned was pretty accurate. you can't necessarily recreate what Josh Lowe can do when he's healthy and on. But you also don't know if you were going to get healthy and on Josh Lowe anyway. Like, you know, as best, you know, he if he's just like last year, then that was also a problem anyway. This, you now know, now you're forced into it, and now you have to go at like, okay, can you recreate that, the outcome that you were hoping for in the aggregate with
and Richie Palacios
Caballero.
back.
And Palacios will be back. So I think what you see right now is kind of, it's not ideal by any stretch, but the glass half full part is this gives you an opportunity to just try out a bunch of people really quickly, right? See what Cameron Meisner can do. See what Jake Mangum can finally do. Like, these are guys that have been around a lot of prospect lists for a long time. Like, these guys have been top 30 guys on multiple franchises. They have pedigrees. This is an opportunity. And the Rays have seen this with like a lot of guys, like a Joey Wendell, where it's like, these are your Logan Forsythe, for instance, like these kind of guys that kind of bounce around the league and just kind of churn it around. You can have some really highly productive guys in that range. The Rays, when they were going to the World Series, you know, you have guys like Gabe Gross and Gabe Kapler during that prime era of the Rays that like can produce quite a bit. That aren't necessarily great players in the individual, but you put them together and you can get a really productive part of the lineup. So I am excited to see Mangum and Meisner and then eventually more of Caballero and Palacios. I think Palacios getting back will be nice. It'll just be, in the meantime, who of Mangum or Meisner keeps the job. So that I think that is an open competition right now. Who is going to be the most valuable as the bench piece? And you'll see a lot more of Richie Palacios, which is a good thing. I think Palacios adds a nice element. And we'll talk about the things I really liked. We'll both talk about the things we really liked and what we are still concerned about. But Palacios adds the thing that I'm really excited about that I saw so far, which is more contact, less Ks. That is something that I'm going to be very curious to see if that continues when he gets back here. But the Rays have options. They have options. It's not ideal, but early season, they have options. And then, once you get to late May, you start, the clock for Chandler Simpson starts ticking quite quickly. If he's doing really well in Durham and you're not getting that production from your outfield, he's a guy that's gonna, I think, could be an earlier call up than you'd think.
Yeah. When you look at like the silver linings, like we talk about with the Shane McClanahan injury, okay, now we don't have to manage his innings as much because he's gonna, this is not a true like elbow or shoulder injury, so we're not worried about overall arm health, and this is going to help us manage his innings for the season. The Josh Lowe injury, I think if you're trying to take a silver lining out of that, it's that because of the roster construction, even though the roster is, I think, net negative without Josh Lowe, like you're worse without him.
Totally.
It allows you to use that roster spot in a way where you can tinker so much more with your defensive alignment, with your batting order. And we saw it on Sunday. And I think we're going to, Kevin, like the lineup tonight is interesting as well. I'll try to pull it up, but I think it's going to allow Kevin Cash to be a little more flexible and see what you got early in the season, so that when Josh Lowe is coming back and we are down to that last roster spot and determining whether it's going to be Meade or Eloy or Palacios or Mangum or Meisner, like all of those guys, like could, their roster security is not on lock. And so right now is a really good audition for some of those guys. And I think with Meisner and Mangum, it's an audition to see who's not going to be traded back to the Marlins. I feel like that's in the cards for one of those guys. No disrespect to either of them. Pete Bendix, obviously, well, he traded him, so maybe at one point he'll want him back. Or he only traded for one of them, I think. I think one of them we had before. Bendix was over there.
But he might have been the one on the Rays that was looking to trade. So he might have said, like,
yeah,
let's
exactly.
go get Jake Mangum. And then when he goes over there, he'll be like, oh, let's trade Kevin Meisner. So it's possible. It's Pete is behind everything. Every fringe outfielder, it's Pete.
I want to get into Sunday's lineup a little bit, because you mentioned Eloy, and I want to talk about Eloy. And maybe we did a poor job of reading the tea leaves on this one. It was kind of hinted at that, yeah, maybe Yandy Diaz is not going to play as much first base. And what that really meant is that Yandy Diaz is this team's DH.
And turns out there was no spot for DH.
Yeah.
Yandy already had it.
And he might not play much first base at all. Like, I think you want to keep him out there just to keep the glove broken in.
I mean, so far, apparently they don't, because he has not played first at all. Like he has been starting at DH. He's starting again tonight at DH. I think just from flexibility, you'll cycle him through, but it definitely feels like the Rays are more than capable and more than happy to just have it be Curtis Mead or Jonathan Aranda as a pure platoon.
Right. And we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing, if there's a lefty out of the bullpen, Mead will come and pinch hit. You can use Aranda off the bench as well. And so if that's the case, and that's something that we did not foresee going through spring training, that Yandy Diaz is not a first baseman that's going to DH a little bit more, is in fact your DH, then there is no spot for Eloy Jimenez. There is not enough plate appearances to warrant putting him on the roster, which I think is even more important that the Rays were able to keep him. So if something does happen to Yandy or Mead or another outfielder, or at some point you just want to add a little more offense, you can make that roster move and bring him back up if he's still with the organization. But it makes a lot more sense now. Not to say that Curtis Mead still didn't earn that spot outright, because I think he did, but it would make a lot more sense now that they went with Mead over Eloy if the plan was to DH Yandy, because then there's just less plate appearances to go around for everybody.
I think it also, I think we were talking about this on the Slack, but it also makes a lot more sense why the Rays did the double option pickup. That was a move that was a little curious, because you're like, neat, but like a little unnecessary. Like, it didn't seem like it made a lot of sense, but we talked about how, like, it's a good sign for a veteran player to be like, hey, you're covered. Don't worry about it. The options are picked up. That financial part is done. Don't come into the season having that feeling of like, I got to do this. But now when you look at what happened here, this makes so much more sense. You were able to, we talked about this. I talked about, I think on 2 weeks ago, about like how the Rays are such a good job of being a holistic team rather than just an analytics spreadsheet team. They know all of the analytics. They are very advanced. Their R&D is a humongous amount of their front office, but it doesn't mean a damn if you can't actually treat these humans like humans. Like, they are not computers. They need to have buy-in. You need to have buy-in. And we saw that with certain players that fail here. They may not be all the way bought in. We saw that with the opener with the Yankees. Jay Happ clearly was not bought in, had a terrible start in the postseason, and afterwards basically said, Aaron Boone did this to me. Like, this was it was clearly a problem. We're kind of seeing this right now in Boston with Rafael Devers, who is off to his worst start ever. He has not gotten a hit. He's struck out like something like 13 times already. Looks very uncomfortable and out of sync at DH. We know in the offseason, the Bregman news was a big shock to him. Devers said he doesn't want to go to DH. Alex Cora said, too bad, you're going to DH. He's starting slow. Like, I think Devers will obviously figure it out. He's a great player, but that clearly was not communicated very well. Like, the whole Bregman thing must have come together very quickly, but Devers seemed to react as somebody who was also finding out on MLB Network like everybody else. And so when it comes to this makes so much more sense now to be like, listen, Yandy, he's getting older. He's a big guy. He's had some injuries in the past. You want to keep him fresh. He is
and I think he's played through a lot too.
Of course. Oh yeah.
And so I think now you've got the security where if something is barking a little bit more, you know what? Take your time off.
Take a day.
Going to hold this against you
days.
when it comes to picking up your option or not. Like,
and you can go to DH saying like, this is what we think will be best for the team, for you, for us. And Yandy doesn't have to go, well, like, listen, DHs don't get paid.
Right.
If you're not going to pick my option up, if I have an injury that I can't play through, or I play through and then I get really hurt, I miss time.
Or hurt the team.
Now I'm coming into the offseason as a 34-year-old DH only. And that's a harder thing to market. We saw like even at first base, it's hard to sell. DH, you're not getting paid very well. But now, okay, I'm already paid. He's already got it. He's already got that check. So now it's sure, be the DH. And I think what you see there is that you just see like that's the when we always talk about this, like what's the secret sauce to the Rays? Yeah, it's great scouting, it's great development, it's great research, it's great analytics, but like it's that. Like every team is smart and brilliant and has unbelievable like sound minds, but it's also the willingness to listen to that, but also communicate that to the players and get that buy-in so that it's not just, hey, Yandy, you're under contract, you're playing DH. If you don't like it, you're getting benched. No, it's you want Yandy to be the guy that's bought in and says, yeah, no, DH sounds great. I'm paid. I don't have to worry about that. I'm just going to focus on this.
Yeah, I think it's also maybe there were discussions about, hey, there's been Yandy Diaz trade rumors for like over a year now. And so it's like, okay, you know what? You're going to DH, we're going to pick up your option. And if we're having a successful season, we won't trade you during the season. We might revisit in the offseason. It's the Rays. We'll always have to think about our future as well as yours. But it feels like Yandy's been here long enough. Like him and Brandon Lau have been like two of the longest tenured Rays ever, right? Like they've been here a while. And I think it's shown that they played all 3 games. Everyone else rotated through. Like even Caminero.
Yeah.
Obviously Jansen got a day off, and those 3 guys, and they're in a lineup for a 4th straight day, which play 4 games in a row. It's not the craziest thing in the world, but usually early in the season, you'll see a little bit more rotation. And the fact that the Rays play 6 games before their first off day, maybe they get that off day, they get the double off day, right? Although you are facing Skeens in that game. So maybe you
which are Yandy and Lau being like, I can take that day off.
I'll take it off.
Okay.
Maybe
Wednesday might be a good day to take off. That one, I'm gonna. Who's the guy tonight? I'll play tonight. Other Pirates pitchers I'll play.
And you maybe they're available in the bench, off the bench, late in game. Yeah. We'll face.
Once you get to the bullpen, I'll take my chances against David Bednar. He's a great reliever. I'll come off in the 9th, but
Colin Holderman.
Yeah, good filthy stuff. I'll help you out, but maybe when's. Yeah, that's the rest day.
But I think it speaks a lot that those 2 guys have stayed around, haven't been traded. I think it speaks, and we've talked about this in the last few episodes. It speaks to more than just their baseball ability. That the fact that these 2 guys are here, they're in the lineup every day. I think the Rays are in this has been a hot button term, a transition period. Where they've got these young guys coming up, and it really means a lot to have those 2 guys who have been around, that have been on every postseason team that for the last 5 postseason appearances, that have been there, done that. To have those guys in the lineup every day, I think is going to do a lot for the young players that are coming up. And yeah, I'm really excited to keep watching them. I want to get into the lineup construction the last few days. Faced 1 left-handed pitcher on opening day. I don't think that's how the lineup's going to always look versus left-handed pitchers. I'm curious to see if Curtis Mead his leadoff like more than a few more times this season. I see what he's trying to do there. I know they said they're trying to move Yandy down, but then we got Yandy leadoff the next 2 days against righties. It feels like Yandy should be the leadoff hitter and not Curtis Mead.
Yeah, it's a little, it's Kevin Cash. He loves to make an interesting lineup. I liked it, frankly. I thought it was a fun choice, but I don't know. I feel like Mead still is somebody that he is going to be in there against all lefties.
Yeah.
He still feels like somebody that should maybe I wouldn't mind a Jose Caballero in the leadoff spot there. If you do want to move
my language
down now. Somebody that's like that will start the game. I mean, that's a very traditional guy to start, right? Who's like the stolen base,
low batting average
last year, low batting average. Yeah, like that's a 1992 baseball right there.
His batting average was like 223 or something.
Also not great about low power, low batting average, but a lot of steals. So he's a fast guy. But he is the type of guy that you can put in the leadoff spot and just be a absolute start the game off, causing the other pitcher to be annoyed. That's not a bad way to do, because that's Jose Caballero. His magic ability is everybody that faces him is just a little bit more annoyed than they were when they didn't face him. Whatever he's doing.
If like anytime Hennessy Cabrera is going to pitch, you want Caballero to get as many plate appearances as, I don't think he starts anymore, but I am all for it. Like Caballero, if there's one thing about, he got one start in the first 3 games, which was on Sunday. They gave Caminero an off day. They gave Christopher Morel an off day. I think part of that was you wanted to give Jake Mangum his debut, and then you're fitting another left-handed bat in there, so it made sense for Morel to get an off day. And then Caminero, I was shocked by that off day this early, but you play 6 straight games. You want to get Caballero his first opportunities as well. Tonight he is starting at shortstop. Mm-hmm. I'm interested to see if that's a day off or if he's going to get some. I've been banging that drum for a while now that Caballero should play more than Walls. I think Walls had a really great weekend. Got a couple hits, played good shortstop, like good signs from Taylor Walls to start the season. But Caballero, like, first off, instantly he was an upgrade over like Caminero defensively at third base. You're not going to take Caminero off third base.
Spectacular plays, but he made some immediately. There was a thing that we saw in the first 2 games, a couple plays that, Caminero did have an error. He had a couple other plays where he was just a little slow to get to, and he didn't get to balls that ended up going for singles or doubles. Whereas Cabby immediately had a chance and was snared a clear hit.
With Caminero, I have worries about his defense. It's clear that he wasn't going to be a shortstop, at least for a team like the Rays that values defense at that position more than most. I don't think he lacks the tools to be a decent third baseman. I think he just needs more time.
We've seen some good plays. We've seen some really good plays. He even had a really good tough play coming in on a ball that he made. Like, I think Caminero, he's still very young. Like, and I agree. Like, he's getting the majority of the starts at third. I want him there most days. So, like, that's totally fine. But that also does mean, like, I do like Caballero is like the guy I love batting 7, 8, 9 on every team. Like, that type of guy. And he will play, I think, a lot. He'll just play everywhere. Like, he did pinch hit. He came in for pinch run and then it stayed in when Josh was injured, and he got in a bat and drove in a run in game 1. And he did not play in game 2. And I think you're right. I think that's the Jake Mangum gets the call up. Gardner Minshew's in the house, so you can't his boy. So, like, you got to give Mangum the
and Jake Mangum, 29-year-old rookie, like. I think you'll see that in any team where, like, his first day up, you give him
coming off the bench. He's not coming off the bench.
He's got family in town. Like, he was telling the story about how far his parents drove, like, through the night. You give him the start, and that makes a lot of sense. So I just want to run through Sunday's lineup, though. Diaz, DH, Mangum, right field, Brandon Lau, second base, Aranda, first base, Walls batting 5th for the 8th time in his career. I was shocked. I thought it had to have been his first. 8th time in his career, he was hitting 5th to start the game. Meisner in left, Caballero at 3rd, Rortvet catching and batting 8th, and then DeLuca rounding out the lineup batting 9th. And offensively, I had very little hope in that lineup. Of course, it scored more runs than any other lineup the Rays put out that weekend.
Which you did say. You did say, like, this lineup is hilariously, like, anemic, yet it's definitely going to be the one that scores 8. Scored 6. So you got close. And they had a bases loaded opportunity there. It's one of those lineups. It's one of those things with the Rays. When you see that lineup, you're, like, kind of almost a little excited because you're like, damn, that is the weirdest lineup I've ever seen. Like, what is Taylor Walls doing at 5th? But you're like, that's the type of thing that Kevin Cash pulls, and it works weirdly a lot. And it was such a funny thing coming off of a game, the second game of the season was I think it's going to be the most frustrating game of the season. Like, it's one of the most frustrating games I've seen in, like, years. The Rays had just bushels of hits, tons of hard contact, couldn't score. like balls were just like being ricocheted at like 115 off of like 3 Rockies and then ending up in the glove at first. Like it was like the weirdest type of game where just it seemed like every possible good luck went to the Rockies. So you were like, you got to just come back out the next day and like put that behind you. And everybody talked about it because after the game, everybody talked to, I heard it like the question for like 3 of the players about like how like yesterday you hit the ball like crazy. Today there's like multiple runs scored without a ball leaving the infield. And everyone just said, that's baseball, right? You hit the ball the best you can, you score no runs. You get a dribbler to second that's booted. You get a bunt. You get a hard grounder, and like that's what scores you a big inning. So, gotta love it. Gotta love baseball. Taylor Walls batting 5th, leading to 6 runs scored.
Not how I would have drawn it up, but that's why I'm not paid a lot of money like Kevin Cash is to make these lineups. And of course, a new lineup every day is pretty much what we've come accustomed to as Rays fans. And I feel like we're gonna, with the way the lineup is currently constructed, we're gonna see a lot of wacky lineups. Although Yandy Diaz is leading off for the 3rd straight game, so we'll see what happens the next lefty. I don't know when they face another lefty is, but we shall see. All right, Darby. This has been the talk of baseball this past weekend. After the Yankees clobbered the Brewers, put up over the last 2 games of that series, put up like well over 30 runs, right? Like they put up,
they got 20 in one
game. I think it was somewhere around 33 or 34 runs. I think they scored 13 or something in that series finale. In part because of well, I think we're just calling torpedo bats now. Is that what we're calling them? Where the barrel is a little bit closer or further down the bat. And it has like
there's more barrel.
Yeah.
There's more barrel, less rest of bat.
Is there more barrel or is the barrel just slid down?
Well, so there's been a lot of articles out today. Like everybody was like rushing to make an article today. What the bat manufacturers, which had to actually create these things, and they are in the rules, right? Like we're going to talk about that, but like they are within the rule specifications. But the bat manufacturers had to do them, and they called them the pins, bowling pins. And so it is, if you think of a bowling pin, and I'm sure you've seen the photos by now, but if you think of a bowling pin, it's not that like absurd, but it is similar to that, where you have the handle's still skinny, it expands, and then it goes back down a little bit. So that the head of the bat is going to be a little bit smaller. And so the barrel is maybe a little larger or a little bit, more lower in some cases. So yeah, torpedo bat, which is definitely better branding. Like I'm sure they're all kicking themselves being like, oof, that was right there. We should have done that. It became the rage after the Yankees pulverized Nestor Cortez's return to the Bronx. By the way, that game, 3 home runs on the first 3 pitches. I don't think that's happened before. That's insane. Mix a ball in, Nestor. Do your weird thing where you hold the ball and you spin around. Like do the thing. Do the flip, man.
I think the Yankees got out of the Nestor Cortez business at the right time. It feels like
that was a crisp 10 that they found in their pants pocket, and they decided not to invest all their money in finding money in pants pockets. I think that was the wise business strategy. That was a bad. I will say this. With the torpedo bats, there's been a lot of narrative, and we'll dive into this, but I will say right off the bat, it is very funny that this is the moment that like people are like, oh my God, what is this new thing? And it's like, how did the Yankees beat a guy that throws like 89 with poor command and low stuff? I don't know, man. How did they do it? How does Aaron Judge and
Aaron Judge, one of the greatest hitters ever,
who doesn't use a torpedo bat, by the way, Aaron Judge is like, nah, I don't really need it. If you found out, it's like, yeah, how did they possibly tag? This journeyman pitcher who was good for like 2 seasons, with bad stuff and worse command, who threw pitches that were like dead center. Each of them were into the happy zone. I don't know. It's maybe there is something. I don't know if the torpedo bat did all of the work there. That might have just been not so nasty Nestor.
Yeah. But we did see them in a couple of Rays batters. We saw Junior Caminero use one off the bench on Sunday. We saw, I think, Yandy Diaz. I don't know. I didn't notice it at first. It's kind of hard to notice unless you know what you're looking for on the television broadcast. Up close, you can notice it a little bit more. Caminero was not using his normal bat, and it was reported a few days ago. I don't know if we still don't have confirmation of this, but Giancarlo Stanton left a bat specifically for Junior Caminero in the locker room at Steinbrenner Field. Do we have any confirmation that this was the bat that Giancarlo Stanton left for Caminero?
We do not, and I hope somebody asks him, because I think that would be really, really cool.
It would be cool.
It was a nice little gift.
It would be cool if Stanton had he's been dealing with injuries, but I'm sure he was doing cage work and other things during spring training. It would be cool if Stanton used a torpedo bat or a bowling pin and thought, man, Junior Caminero, there's not many players in the game with as much raw power as Junior Caminero. I want to see what he can do with a bat like this. I'm going to leave this for him.
Well, last year in the postseason, if you remember, Giancarlo Stanton was putting on a fireworks display. Yeah. One of the fastest bats in quickest bats in Major League Baseball is Giancarlo Stanton. Junior Caminero also today tops out the top bat speed in baseball after the weekend at 81 miles, just unbelievably fast, like elite level. Giancarlo Stanton, it was discovered today in photos, he was using the torpedo bat last October.
Yeah.
So
he has used it in games, and
he has used it, and he was hitting some unbelievably like silly home runs.
Stantonian home runs.
Exactly. Now, he also does that a lot for his career. Like when he gets a hold of something, it goes absurdly far. But yeah, that is an interesting thing, right? Like this is a thing. And what we've also found out after this, because this was a big thing where it's like the Yankees used it. We saw Jazz Chisholm, Anthony Volpe earlier or last year. They kind of experimented him with it because they were saying he was getting just off of the barrel, or he was missing off the barrel. He was like just above or just below, I think was what they were saying. We saw Cody Bellinger, Jazz Chisholm, Anthony Volpe, and then Paul Goldschmidt were all the ones that were confirmed to have used it. 3 of those guys hit home runs in that game, but again, might just be Nestor Cortez. Those all have proven it. But the thing is that it was being talked about on the Red Sox broadcast today that I was listening to. This was going all throughout spring training. A lot of teams and players have been experimenting with this. This got big this weekend when the Yankees hit 20 runs and 9 home runs. But this is something that definitely is a newer thing. It was being experimented with around the league. And teams are invested in this, and they are like interested in the potential of what this can do. We don't know yet exactly what it can do. I think there's a lot of going to be, anytime there's a new innovation in baseball, there is a very quick rush to market. And it usually has the same type of thing where we are very susceptible to the gimmicks, right? Like Daisuke Matsusaka with the gyro pitch, right? It was going to be like, nobody's going to be able to hit this. It's an impossible pitch. There's always an impossible pitch or a new thing, like a new gimmick, and it turns out to be slightly better than your average, like normal thing. But that is what baseball is about, is getting those like tiny advantages, tiny percent. Like if you can get 0.5% better, that could be the difference between staying in the major leagues and not. This bat is interesting to me because it does change the way we think about it. But the bats also have always been changing. The materials, the weights, this is changing the shape a bit, which is different. And I'm very excited. But it's something immediately people were like, we gotta ban it, which is like the most hilarious thing. Which is like, we don't know what this is yet. Like we don't know if this needs to be banned. I immediately look at this and I go, this is interesting. This is cool.
Yeah.
I want to see how players use it. I want to see which players use it, which players don't. What are their reasons for it? Teams that are like super analytical, like the Yankees, like the Rays, like the Dodgers, I'm curious to see like how they explain this, because this is I love innovation. I'm very excited. I'm not McGill, who is already saying like, you know, the Yankees are cheaters for basically using this, but nobody will care because it's the Yankees. It's like, man, if that's not a pitch better like scenario, then I don't know what is. But I am excited about this. This is fun. I think it's going to be one of those things where we talk a lot about it, and it turns out to be a very minor or neutral thing. But
Right.
I'm still very excited to see, because maybe there is something to it.
Well, I was listening to Rates and Barrels a little bit last week or this weekend, and this was before the weekend's games were played, so the word torpedo bat hadn't entered the lexicon yet. But they were kind of talking about, you know, what is next for technological advances in baseball, and how close is baseball to being, you know, a solved game, where we've seen, you know, we're taking pitchers to the brink of what is physically possible for humans to do, and we have bat speed data, and we're tracking every bit of movement that for all the players on the field. And what more can we learn about this game to try and get better at it, and or what now is just about minor adjustments made on a game by game basis. And so to see something designed by like a physicist that works for the Yankees, pretty cool that like there are these new innovations that are out there, and it gives me hope that like we're going to see more new, weird, wacky stuff as the game goes on and as years go on. So, you know, if it helps Junior Caminero hit one or two more home runs this year because he brings it out against a certain pitcher, I'm all for it.
Well, what's interesting is there's going to be an article on D-Rays Bay kind of explaining kind of like what are the potential benefits, what are the needs for this, and getting to, you know, look at what people are kind of tinkering in public with. I'm very excited to read this article. But the things that seemingly we were sort of, that people have sort of been discussing, is that you're looking at a bat that potentially, by changing the shape a little bit, allows you to be quicker through the zone, so increases bat speed a little bit. That's going to be the big benefit. So you still need to square up a pitch. You still need to get it on the barrel. You still need to identify your pitch, but get bat speed. And we know with the bats tracking data that came out last year, this is the next big innovation. How you utilize that bat tracking data, that bat speed, like where the swing plane is. These are all huge. And so when you can potentially adjust and give people a boost in bat speed, that could be huge. You could take an elite bat speed guy in Junior Caminero and make him Stantonian in terms of bat speed. Or you can maybe take some guys that are really struggling with it and give them that boost that gets them kind of a little bit better. The other big thing is that it does make the sweet spot sweeter, right? It gives you that ability that if you can get it in the sweet spot, it gives you that little extra boost, extra jolt. Maybe gives you a little bit less penalty if you're just off of the sweet spot. Maybe gives you that little extra space. Whereas it will potentially punish you for getting it off the end of the barrel. But if you're swinging and you're making contact off the end of the barrel, it's bad contact anyway. It's almost always an out. So who cares if it's even worse contact, right? You maybe you're trading one like foul ball or one like dribbler for an extra K or an extra like pop out, but instead you're getting those sweet spot hits much better. So bat speed and sweet spot, like those are the two things that seemingly that's the idea of what it's trying to do. I'm very curious to see how it's utilized. I'm curious. Caminero mentioned that, you know, he did use the other bats, his normal bats, for most of his starts. He then pinch hit with that bat, and he did say that he plans to use it like occasionally,
which is also a little worrying too. Like, are guys able to jump back and forth between using this bat and not impact their swing or their approach? Like that's going to be an interesting wrinkle, and it gives me something to look for, right? Starting with tonight's game, it's like I'm going to look at every at bat a little more closely, try to determine Oh, is that a torpedo? What are they using there? I don't know. It's an interesting wrinkle. It might be a nothing burger, or it might be something that's just not as drastic as it's being, made out to be after the Yankees just pummel the Brew Crew over the weekend.
It's also possible that Major League Baseball just added the juice balls back, and they're just like, look at this bat.
It feels like it. I mean, the Rays, we talk about how many hard hits they had on Saturday, and a lot of them were on the ground. And so I'd like to see them lift the ball a little bit more. But it feels like around baseball, because last year, early in the season, like April, May, and like half of June was like really low power numbers, and really low offensive numbers. And so until it started to heat up outside. And so I don't know, maybe the juice ball is back after a few games. It feels like something is different, but
maybe
we'll see. The ball's been different like every year for like 4 or 5 years now. So
yeah,
who knows? All right. That is going to do it for this week's episode of Raise Your Voice. Thank you guys for listening. We have been live on youtube.com/@raiseyourvoice. If you're still watching us live and you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you can join us every time we go live. We're still available wherever you get your podcast. Leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, one of the best ways to spread what we do to more and more Rays fans. Patreon.com/raiseyourvoice, where if you're a paid member for as little as $1 a month, you can join our exclusive Raise Your Voice Patreon. I would love to build that up and continue chatting Rays baseball with you guys. And as always, make sure to head on over to draysbay.com to check out all of that great Rays coverage. Once again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.